All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of our Breakfast with Data. And in today's episode, um, we are doing we'll be rounding up this thing for yesterday. This is our SQL Foundation. We'll be rounding up this. Today is supposed to be the last day of this particular series. Um, Now there was a mishap yesterday. Um, the explain those of you that might be looking out for it on YouTube. We did not have that on YouTube. Yesterday I wasn't able to upload because there was a technical glitch. Apparently, I have failed to turn on the main microphone that is connected to the recording application, which is the studio. So today I'm going to do a brief recap, which is OBS actually. So the audio, I have video but no audio. So and I know that doesn't make sense for a lot of people. So today I'm going to do a brief recap. The goal for today initially was to wrap up everything that we have done in terms of trying to so far so good. Today we are going to be doing validation, but before that, let's quickly look at what is explain. Explain is one of those things that we did yesterday. We went in depth into this explain. Explain is there are different ways, different databases implement explain, right? So but it's one of those stuff that tells you, SQL is declarative, so you see what the um what is it called, you get a sense of what the query engine wants to do, but what is it actually going to do, you may not know, right? So explain tells you the step by step that this particular query is going to take. So for example, if I run this now and I say explain, let's explain this query. Was it cancelled almost immediately after? I think I ran it twice, right? So if you run explain, it's going to tell you the step by step, and you can then take a deeper look into the different steps and probably see what is costing you. What are the different this thing? We said shuffle is not always a good thing when you are joining multiple tables and when you are moving tables from one partition to the other. We talked about some query optimization techniques yesterday, which include indexing and partitioning your table very well. So when your query that should run for 30 minutes, for 30 seconds, is now running for 30 minutes, you should know what to look out for. So again, this thing is going to, you see this numbering 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those are the different steps that the Databricks engine in this particular case is going to take in order to be able to run your query, in order to be able to see how to get to know how your query is going to perform. Now you need a little bit of understanding of how distributed computing works, so that you understand this shuffle map, what is a shuffle, what is a broadcast join, what is what are the other kind of join, sort, merge, join. What are those? What is the implication? Broadcast is like you're having a table on every of the partition. We also look at other tools which is also available in this thing. So if you want to see the uh, performance of your query, you can go here, and when we you can open execution history, right, of a particular query. And if you run this, let's run this, let's run this one now and see the. Now if you click on this and you go here, you're going to be able to see how see query profile, query not cached, what's going on here. You can see the. I was hoping we were going to see that graph that we were seeing yesterday, because you can see how many this thing copy ID in the select system. I don't get. Yep. One result. Query unavailable. This thing. Select ID. Just a minute. So this query was not cached. Let's run this guy. Let's see. Let me even see this. Maybe it's there. From let's restart this our cluster and see why it's not. I was hoping we'll see what we were seeing yesterday, so that we see how the query is performing. And the same. Okay. But see query profile. You're supposed to see a chart here. I don't know why it's not. You can view the original query using statement ID. I'm not interested in that particular one. But it appears the cluster is not. Maybe it did not wake up very well or something. I don't know. Yes, this query profile. So that query was run um the shuffle. Sorry, from catch. But again, we have something like this where we can see the scan, the full table scan for customer. That took 1 second. This took 2 milliseconds, 1 millisecond. Join and shuffle, you see that join and shuffle account for alone are 7 seconds. So these are the main steps. This is where you have to be very, very careful as to how you do things. So explain is a way for you to look for your for query to for optimization. I also did a little bit overview on distributed computing, how partitioning and distribution works, and why you don't want to have why you want to do broadcast in certain cases. Having a small table like this is our customer table, it will make sense if that table, if you copy it on the different partitions that are in your database, right? We looked at the concept of indexing. What does indexing mean? And I liken it to your dictionary, right? So if you're searching for something, let's say we are searching for the word breakfast, right? You don't, or maybe breakfast is even closer to a, maybe is it starts with B, so it's faster to see. Let's say we are looking for the word selfie, right? Don't start looking for selfie from the very beginning of the page of the dictionary. Probably open halfway to see if you are before S or behind S. So you go to find S, then E, then and so on and so forth. So again, that is about explain, right? That's roughly it. Again, you can go and try and see the different the different excuse me, you can try and go and get the different explain stuffs. You understand that uh you might be encountering. Now, the today we want to do what we want to look at is how do you validate your how do you validate your query, right? If you have written an SQL query, right? How are you going to be? What are those steps that you need to do to make sure that your query is what is running, and this is kind of like a recap on what we have been doing. Excuse me, I just need to, I think I'm getting some messages from some stuff, and I need to just quickly attend to that. Can anybody hear me now? Hello? I hope that thing that happened yesterday has not happened again. Oh my god. How many minutes was I away for? Okay. Thank you. So what I'm saying is when we are doing today, it's for data validation, and I don't know how long I was not talking for. I was actually talking, but I think I need to make sure my mic setting is well. This thing maybe I've not woken up very well. That will be the issue. So again, when you do what is it called? Select um one of the first things you should do when you have a new table is to have a count of everything that we are doing, right? So when you have a count and you have an idea of what your table should look like, when you see a drastically different this thing, I mean, this is not definitive, right? Maybe you have an idea that this table should contain 10,000 records. All of a sudden, you are saying 1,000, or you are saying 200,000, or 500,000. You know, something has happened. Maybe immediately after a join, immediately after your pipeline, you understand you are doing validation. You should always have an idea of how many rows you are expecting in your destination. I mean, you might have counted what you picked up in the source. Now that you are in the destination, what are you seeing? What are you expecting? Simple count is fine. Now I said another thing that you need to do is to do what we call deduplication, right? So um deduplicating things, right? Understanding if there are duplicate records in your primary key. You understand? Do you have duplicates? You can do a unique count. Now there are two ways to do this. You can use group by and having a count greater than one, or you can actually use the distinct count. So for example, if we can even use this again for this same table. If we want to see other ID is the primary key on the others table. So if we want to see if this other ID, right, is unique, because if it's not unique, it's going to affect a lot of things, right? We need to understand what is unique here and what is not unique. So if we do count star here as rows, so we know these are the number of rows, right? And we can distinct count distinct order ID. If it's different from the number of rows, then we have distinct order ID as, let's call this one distinct key. Distinct key. Distinct keys. So if you have, and I mean, you can even have the number of duplicates, and the number of duplicates will be the total number of rows. Why did I call this row? The total number of rows, which will be count star, right? Minus the distinct count of the primary key. All right. So that will tell you how many duplicates do we have there. Now this should return this should be zero actually in any way, but in case I mean, trust but verify, or trust but validate, right? In case something has entered into your data or something, you have to be very, 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 very careful. And another thing you should also check as a good data practitioner, after you've checked for cardinality, which is especially your primary key, is it unique? That is what we're checking for here. The next thing you should check for is like um um which columns have null, right? And it's very very easy. We can use this similar stuff, right? So if I go here, I'm just going to copy this, right? And I can say if I want to find a row that um, has null, I can just let me remove this one. So if this is the total, let me change this to total, right? Let's say I'm looking for, and let's make sure we see the columns in the database. So we are here in orders. If I want to see if there are orders that have not been delivered, maybe delivered at as null. So instead of order ID here, I can change it to delivered at, right? And that will tell me the null delivered, right? Null delivered. So these are the null deliveries. I can copy this again, just these steps again, this same step again, and do this. Instead of null deliveries now, I can see maybe there are null customers. Are there orders that does not have the customer? So if customer ID is null, I will say null 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 customers, right? So if I run this now, I know delivery this thing has some null, so that is telling me null customers. This is actually not telling the whole uh, the whole picture. Now this one is actually not telling me the this thing, because it's not even telling me the this. It's just telling me if there are. In fact, this is a very different way to count this. That I just showed you is actually a bug, because it is not null customer, because I'm counting distinct customer. So I have 200 customers. All the 200, one customer could be making 300 purchase, and this other one too, it doesn't. I just thinking of it now. Null check will be to check for uh counts. You can do a count where this thing is null. So if we look at this, let's get a proper this thing. Count star will be a good thing where liver that is null. From this where deliver that is null. I just thought about it again, that logic does not really work. I mean, we can use to check for duplicate customers, but not this. So there are 211 instances where the delivery this thing is now not 213 as we were getting earlier, because that's just telling me how many distinct deliveries I have versus the non distinct. And you can see all these null, they probably came from orders that are either placed, cancelled, or not yet. The orders that are not delivered, so we don't have a delivered time for them. So always check for what columns have null, right? You might just be switching this guy. So count star. So what we're interested in, let's see if we have any customer ID that happened to be null, like we wanted to see before. I'm expecting this to give me 0, which, yeah, which it did. Let's see if we have maybe restaurants where this thing is null, but I think it's only delivered hat that has this. So again, always check columns for possible nulls, because nulls can then affect some of the calculations that you try to do when you include um, those columns. If you don't handle the nulls very well, I think that was 2 days ago or 3 days ago, I know we did something on null earlier this week, right? So again, after you've checked some columns for null, especially the columns you are doing joins on, the columns your where clause is, you are filtering based on those columns. Why? Because null can mislead you in some of your calculation. I advise you to check that video so that you go through it again. Now, another stuff that we can easily take into another stuff that you should do, and this, all of this I'm saying should not take more than maybe 5 to 10 minutes, is to check the range, right? Does this make sense? So for example, we have this amount. Okay, so suppose I have maybe a order that from a restaurant that is about 10 million naira, right? One single order, 10 million. I know there is a problem there, right? Maybe I'm not rounding very well or something. Select. So we can look at the range, right? We can do, and these are some of the things that you might get. You might get this from the company's business rule, right? So I'm just going to select uh, mean, mean, mean total amount, right? Yeah, right. And I'm going to call this mean AMT. And I'm going to select the maximum, max, right? Total amount. I'm going to call it max AMT. Alright. And I'm going to just copy these two. And let's check the time these orders were placed. Right? So instead of this thing, I'm just going to place that here. And I'm going to do the same thing. Add mean date and max date, right? So I'm going to run this now. Let me close this with a semicolon. And you check if this range makes sense, right? Does this make sense? Can somebody in our business, or I mean, depending on what kind of thing you are running, does this 61,220 something naira, it does make sense? 389. I want to ask, what is that? Because last I checked, even meat pie is not 380 something naira. But we can actually find out. I mean, we can do a lot of digging, but that's not why we are here, right? And look at this date range. Does this date range make sense or it does not make sense? For example, if your minimum date is maybe 2020, right? December 1st, 2020, instead of the 2025. and you know that your restaurant was created, or this app was created in 2023. So how come someone is placing order before 2020? And you might be looking at it that this is not possible. These are things that I've seen in real life. I've seen uh, banks, and I'm not going to mention them so that anybody does not sue me in this particular instance. I have seen banks where uh, they have cards, right, that were created before the customers were born. Before the customer have an account. You imagine what it means for a customer to account opening date is maybe 2020 or 2000, right? And you have a card by that customer that was opened in maybe 1993 or 1994. That is a problem, and it's a problem that you might need to investigate. It might be a placeholder issue. It might be a couple of issues can be going on and there. So you also need to be very, very sure of what is. You should have an idea of what the range of your data is, right? Date of birth, you understand things around date. Does it make business sense? All these checks will not take more than how many minutes? Maybe 5 minutes of your time, and it's a quick one. Do a first count of a particular table. If there are multiple tables, you can do a count across those ones to know what you are dealing with. If they are bigger than what you are expecting, which you should already know what you are expecting, there might be an issue for further investigation. Next is to do a cardinality check, right? And that will help you to look at the distinct. Do I have is the primary key unique? You understand? Next is to say, which columns have null. This is what I'm expecting. This is what I'm getting. Just quickly do a count of null values. Then you do a range check. These 4 queries take under 5 minutes to write, and to run against the table, they are very, very easy, but they can catch 80% of all these. This data looks weird. You understand? Incidents that you might need to investigate, so that before it gets to your stakeholders, maybe it gets to somebody's dashboard, you use it for calculation, you have already cached a lot of um, those those issues. And there are some times when you want uh the you write certain things into your query, and you want it to even there are some, okay, how do I put it, there are certain errors that you want them to break your pipeline instead of them going silently. In fact, the worst kind of error for you as a data practitioner or a data engineer in this particular case is the one that does not break your pipeline and end up in your database, right? So if there are duplicates, if there are, maybe I'm running, and this used to happen in those old days before we implement some of those techniques, is that maybe your pipeline was running, it has run already, and you rerun it. It's an insertion, right? It's not a merge, it's not upsert or something, and you have you ran the pipeline twice and it's insert into the table twice. So instead of getting 1,000 records, you now have 2,000 records. And you did not know. You built your model like that. So every calculation is a little bit inflated because of that simple mistake, and it happens more often than you think. Validation, sometimes we want to do, there's this what is it called, assertion error, right? So that we can look at it and try it, and we can do this with window function, which we have treated. So we can do select, right? Instead of select, let's do with, I said window function. We are going to use CTE validations, right? As um, let's see, in fact, command Z, command Z, command Z. Let me go and carry one of these this stuff to validate. Good. Let's carry this guy. Think it will make sense. Let me write it under here. I just don't want that noise. So we can say with validation as, I'll remove this, right? So we are looking at let's call these totals to make it make sense. Instead of distinct key, let's say unique orders. Unique orders. Now we can do count star and this thing, and earlier sit as duplicates, dupes, right? Now we want to enforce, right? So you can say select, right? Select, I'm saying select. Let's have enforce first. Enforce CTE, enforce as. Now I have to put a comma here because a CTE that is joined in. Then I can say select star from validation. Don't worry, I'll put the conditions here now from validation. And I can go select star, right, comma. Then I can do the different case statements, right? Can do a case statement, case, right? When dupes is equal to 0, right? I can say then I want to pass. This pass validation, right? But in case this is more than that, let's see, else raise error, I can then concat concat you can just do this and say fail, fail, right? But instead of just fail, I can have the duplicate found right, and I can add the dupes. Can say duplicate order IDs. All right. And from validation duplicate, yes, we can end as and as results check. Right. Now I can now select star from enforce. Let's run this now and see what we've got. I mean, this should pass, right? But if it doesn't pass, that means something is wrong with my query or something is wrong with the table. Now, you might be looking at this as this is looking like logic. Remember in our data frame series, we said there are some things that are better for you to run in SQL, and there are some other things that are better for you to run with Python. So this is a classic case of when you should use a data frame. You can do it with SQL, right? But it might be better for you to just use Python to do this so that you can configure, you can even loop through certain things. You can create some variables and make things pass. Now this is order ID. Suppose I made a mistake and I was checking let's say I'm checking customer ID in this particular case instead of order ID. Maybe I'm checking customer ID, right? I'm just using this so that we can see when it will fail, so that we see what it will how it will come when it does fail. You see that found okay, let me make sure I put space here and I put space here so that this is more readable. You see that it threw that error, right? Just the way we want it to do. Right? Found 2,300 duplicates and stuff. So there are times that we want this to fail on purpose so that it doesn't fail silently. It's better your pipeline break and you wake up in the middle of the night to come and fix it than for your pipeline to break and you don't even know what broke um the pipeline. Always. So I'm going to return this back to the other ID, right? And this to the other ID so that if we run this now, we'll get our this string that will pass the validation, right? So validation is steps that you have to pick special this thing in trying to understand how you're going to do it. I think we did something like that with Python when we're dealing with data frame. But Python has more this thing to handle this. I mean, there are a lot of these things too in what's it called? There are tools that are specifically for data quality and stuff like that. Just to know that there are some things that you can quickly do on your own to make sure you are doing some check in a proper way. You build this into your pipeline, right? This validation rules are stuff that you want to make sure that data does not pass through. Dirty data does not pass through this thing. In a pipeline, we call them validation gates. So there are different steps where you check different things, especially when you are doing a copy activity from one environment to another environment. You always want to validate that what you have selected is actually what you are ingesting is what you should be expecting. Maybe the number has blown out considerably. When you do aggregation, when you do this thing, there are a lot of stuff that you just want to make sure you check. Trust your data, but um, validate the this thing. And there you have it. Validation. This is the last series in SQL. Now, this is not everything, but this gives you the basic foundation, the fundamentals of how you should be thinking of doing things in this new era of LLM, when you have ChatGPT that can write virtually everything for you, but you don't want it to be doing that, right? You want to be able to understand what is being done and why it's doing certain things, so that you can question and query and understand the very um, very basic logic. The next um, series that we are going to be doing, and I'm not sure if we'll be able to take it this Monday because I need to do some planning as well for that, is data modeling, right? So how do you model data? What are fact tables? What are dimension tables? Slowly changing dimension, normalization, denormalization, and all those kind of stuff. We are going to take a look at those series, and I need to specifically plan for certain um event, but I will reach out if I'm able, because I have some events over this weekend. I'm not sure I will have enough time to develop the content for that particular series, the lesson outline, and plan things very, very well. So, but I will reach out to Deborah, depending on how this will go, so that she can send the update. I don't know if there are questions around SQL generally. This is the finale of everything that we are doing since for the past this is like 2 weeks now. If you have any question, we can take it. Okay. It's the silent people that are in class today. All right. In the absence of questions, thank you very much. It's been Breakfast with Data, and thank you for showing up every day. Apologies for the mishap that we had yesterday. Apparently, we had it for a couple of minutes also today again, but I thank God someone was able to catch that earlier, and we did not have an entire video that was not audible to people. Thank you. So what I have done now is to make sure that, and that's why we're able to catch it, is because now I've connected the microphone, that the same mic that is used in the live class is also the same thing that is this thing is also using the recording. So thank you very much for your time. Do have a lovely day ahead, and don't forget to enjoy your weekend.